Oh, we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. And here he is, the Wiz of a Wiz, if ever a Wiz there was. If ever, oh, ever a Wiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does.
G'day, how you going? It's the Apostate of Oz here, and Dorothy. Say hello. Right, well, this book review I think is going to grow into rather a large project. The book that I'm planning to cover in this is called Caesar's Messiah by Joseph Atwill. Now, Joseph Atwill is not a professor or a nice scholar. Right. All right. Well, I'll get into that in a second. So I just want to give Dorothy her time in the sun. Oh, very nice. She's almost 1. She turns 1 next weekend. Just passed so quickly. We go really quick. Anyway, I think I'll you can go play with Mummy, and I'll come back. See ya. Say bye, everyone. G'day. Welcome back, little darling. Had to go put her down to play with Mummy. Can't perform with children and animals, they say. So, well, isn't there truth in that? All right. Back to the book review. So, once again, Caesar's Messiah, and I'll go through a little brief introduction in this because I plan to do a review of every chapter. So, this is going to be a project for a while. So, I ask you some questions. Who was Jesus? Have you ever asked yourself who Jesus was? Have you asked yourself, why is there no historic archaeological evidence that Jesus ever existed? Nothing in stones and mortar. Who wrote the Gospels? Why were they written in Greek rather than Hebrew or Aramaic, which was the language of the time? And how did the Christian religion come to be centered in Rome? Why were the first Christian popes and earliest saints all happened to be members of the Flavius Caesar ruling family? They're probably not questions you've sat having smoko at work and thought, wonder why the Gospels were written in Greek rather than Aramaic. But anyway, still a good question, and something that Joseph Atwill has put a lot of work into to come up with an answer. Now, I plan to this is a decision I made when I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, that I would never again just take the word of someone for what they said. When I left, it was, well, I've just been taking the word of the Watchtower Society, what it said, took it as gospel, and never researched it myself. So that's not, that's being gullible. And then I thought, well, okay, now I'm out of it. Am I just going to accept the word of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who say, look, it's all rubbish and whatnot? So I thought, no, I'm not going to take their word for it either, that I had to do the research. And subsequently, I'll just fold it up, is this blooming big, thick folder that is basically my deconstruction of the whole Jehovah's Witnesses doctrines from things I've read on the net and researched and looked it up myself and confirmed it with others. But that's for me. That's what I needed to do to get my headset out of that cult. A lot of cognitive dissonance went on. There would have been lots of vibrations like an aura around my head, but I got through it and had my suspicions about things, and that's why I heard a BBC interview of Joseph Atwill, and once a year or so ago, and I thought, wow, that really makes sense. So what I'll do by introduction, This book has been introduced by Robert Eisenman, who is a professor of Middle Eastern Studies at the California Long Beach University. He's a senior fellow at the Oxford University and the Albright Institute for Archaeological Research in Jerusalem. So he's a very well-respected professor and Bible scholar. And he wrote an introduction to Joseph's book, and he says, challenging and provocative, if what Joseph Atwill is saying is only partially true, we are looking into the abyss. So that's a credential. I looked up his website, and yes, he had written that endorsement. So it's not like a Watchtower endorsement where they'll pull a few words here, there, and wherever and patch it together and say it was really good. He has the support of some of the fellow professors. But Google him, Google his name, and you will find so many sites just absolutely tearing into him. And surprise, they're all usually born-again Christians or Jesus lovers, and that's their choice. That's fine. I don't criticize them, but they have an agenda. They want Jesus to be true. So are they open-minded to face the facts that Jesus may be just a fictional character? So by way of that, I'm going to read you the back cover of Joseph's book, just as a way of giving you a little bit of insight into where he plans to take us with this book. He says, was Jesus the invention of a Roman emperor? The author of this groundbreaking book believes he was. Caesar's Messiah reveals the key to a new and revolutionary understanding of Christian origins. The clues leading to its startling conclusions are found in the writings of the first century historian Flavius Josephus, which is, hopefully all you good Bible scholars have got yourself a copy of this. I had this back in my JW days. I used to use it quite a bit in talks. So using the works of Flavius Josephus, whose War of the Jews is one of the only historical chronicles of this period, closely comparing the work of Josephus with the New Testament Gospels, Caesar's Messiah demonstrates that the Romans directed the writing of both. Their purpose was to offer a vision of a peaceful Messiah who would serve as an alternative to the revolutionary leaders who were rocking first century Israel and threatening Rome. Similarly, Caesar's Messiah will rock our understanding of Christian history as it reveals that Jesus was a fictional character portrayed in 4 Gospels written not by Christians but by Romans. This Flavian signature edition adds Atwill's latest discoveries of numerous parallel events in sequence with which ultimately reveal the identity of the true authors of the Gospel. So it's certainly a provocative subject because Jesus is the center of Christianity, so to speak. But even just in that little brief introduction, there's so many questions you've got to ask. There's, why is there only the Bible? It's basically the Bible is the only book that has Jesus, and a very brief mention of Jesus in Josephus's work. And I'll just pause it for a sec because I'll look up the account here in Josephus and I'll read it to you. If I can pause it, looking like a deer in the headlights. Jeez, I'll have to stop. Right, sorry about that. I'll work out how to pause that. But it's in the book Antiquities of the Jews, chapter 8, book 18, chapter 3, and paragraph 1, where Jesus gets a mention. And this was, I'd used this before in talks. It says, Josephus wrote, now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man, for he was a doer of wonderful works, a teacher of such men as received the truth with pleasure. He drew over to him many, both of the Jews and many of the Gentiles. He was the Christ. So the Christ is what they knew was the Messiah. So that's the only little verse there, is the only written part other than the gospel account in the New Testament that talks about Jesus. So we're going to certainly learn a lot more about that as we go into the book. So this is just an introduction. I'll put the ISBN link up for this book. It's not an expensive book, freely widely available. I got it through the book depository, or you can get it through Amazon. And what we'll do is the next video I'll get into the first introduction, and I'm sure I've read quite a few chapters through now, and yeah, that's why I decided I think this deserves almost a recording review per chapter, because it really is food for thought. And I cannot believe in the 40 years that I was a Jehovah's Witness and, cognitive adult, that I did not pick this out myself, some of these things. It's unbelievable. But anyway, that's for the next recording, so I will see you then, and thanks for watching. Bye.
I regret to announce this is the end. I'm going now. I bid you all a very fond farewell.